What's going on, you bunch of heathens? Today we are checking out Saboteurs, the live version from the Great Tour. I'm assuming the Great War Tour. Sorry, that kind of threw me off. It just says Great Tour. From Oslo. Should be fun. Mainly checking this one out because I've been getting comments for this song for a while, so had to check it out. Yeah, I keep fucking procrastinating. I keep doom scrolling on YouTube Shorts, and I've wasted like 2 hours doing so. So I really need to get this recorded. Oh god. Hope you guys enjoy it. Links down below. And yeah, let's jump in.
Det en norsk historia om tungvannssabotaget. Saboteurs!
I like it when they speak their... I love it when they speak their home language. At least I'm assuming so. I'd be really embarrassed if it wasn't. Damn! This shit dope as fuck! Sorry, I had to look up the lyrics really quick and to make sure I could understand them, and oh my god, this is so good. Okay, I am glad I saw some context for it when I was setting up for the reaction, where I saw that it was about the what the fuck is it? Why am I blanking? Oh, the heavy water, right? Heavy water? Or is it hard water? Hard water. Production saboteurs. And what's funny is, I don't really know a whole lot about this, other than the only main reason why I know about this, funnily enough, is because of Battlefield 5's campaign. Which is funny because that is incredibly unhistoric, but a great channel I think you guys should check out. Let me find it really quick. Like, legit great fucking channel you should check out. This channel. Frosty1. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of them before, but they are a great channel. And their whole thing is taking games and seeing whether or not they're historical. I love them. One of the first ones I saw was... I don't remember. But Battlefield 5 was a cool one, and he talks about it in that, and that's where my brain instantly went to. Oh, nope, that's the lyrics. So honestly, if I'm brain farting. You guys are fans of history. I can tell that. I mean, you guys really enjoy it whenever I watch history shit. Definitely go and check them out. Check out the channel. They are great channel. Super interesting. Even if you're not actively watching it, having it on in the background is still a really fun time. And yeah, another cool channel that's pretty interesting. That isn't necessarily as historic, but still kind of cool to check out is, I forget the channel name, but he's playing through every Call of Duty game there is and counting the war crimes. or what could be considered war crimes, all that. He goes into specific details of like claymores, for instance. He goes into like, oh, they were banned in this and this. US technically didn't, but in this sense, you're playing as the British, so therefore it would be illegal. Stuff like that. Super cool videos. His most recent one, he played Modern Warfare 2, the original. Yeah, either way, definitely go check out those channels if you enjoy history. A little bit of a tangent. I don't know why I'm brain farting today. Oh, this all started because, yes, this is about the Hardwater production, and I know the only thing I really know about it is from BF5, the sabotages specifically, but also that Hardwater was a big component in the use of an atomic bomb that Hitler was trying to produce. And the sabotage of those heavy water systems, it keeps saying heavy water when it's considered hard water. You understand what I'm trying to get. In the sabotages really pushed back the production of Nazi Germany's atomic bombs. I really like this one though. Damn right they do. Especially now. I mean, think about it like this. Sabaton is immortalizing them in song form. Like, yeah, technically you could say the same thing about BF5 with the resistance there, but I feel like people would be more biased towards Sabaton, I guess. Great solo again. I say that every time. And of course, they had to play this in Norway. I don't know why I didn't think Oslo was in Norway, but no, I'm an idiot. I was trying to wonder who the fuck this was for a second. I think it's just backstage personnel. Kind of threw me off for a second. Oh yeah, that was great. God, that was amazing. I understand now why a lot of you said if there's an available live version, to check out the live version. Yeah, that was fun. I really enjoyed that. All right, we're going to hop straight over into the history section. Stay tuned.
I'm Andy Nidell, and I'm Pat from Sabaton, and this is Sabaton History.
Wow. That was kind of...
During World War II, Germany, like...
I don't know, that sounded weird to me. I don't know what it is. I'm not a fan of... I know they were just speaking together, but I'm really not a fan of what would you call it? What sounds to be double audio.
The Allies tried to develop a nuclear weapon.
And our song Saboteurs is about the people who prevented that. And it is also the name of our German fan club.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that it was
So,
a part of
what if
the German
Nazis
fan
had
club.
developed the atomic bomb first? From the early 1930s, interest in atomic energy had grown dramatically. New research by men like British scientists Ernest Rutherford and James Chadwick had shown that by colliding an atom with a neutron, the atom could be broken down. And by bombarding unstable elements, a huge amount of energy was released during that breakdown process. The German chemists Otto Hahn and Fritz Strassmann had further discovered that bombarding a uranium atom with a neutron would lead to fission, in which more neutrons were released. Those in turn would split more atoms, creating a chain reaction
yep.
that would not only release
I
an
saw
incredible
Oppenheimer.
amount of energy, but could even lead to the creation of new elements, a discovery that got Hahn a Nobel Prize. But as the Nazis steered Germany towards war, a new question arose. Could this new discovery be weaponized? Could this new energy be released in a bomb?
Classic
By early
humanity.
1940, the German scientists Kurt Diebner and Werner Heisenberg thought the answers were yes.
Heisenberg.
Yes. However, certain key components were needed to create such a bomb. One such key component in releasing the nuclear energy of atoms was heavy water. Let's get scientific for a minute, right?
See, he says heavy water too. He says it too. Not because the lyrics, when I pulled up the lyrics, it says in right here, historical fact: saboteurs successfully thwarted Hitler's plan to produce hard water, a vital component in atomic bomb, during Operation Gunnerside in 1943. They say hard water. He says heavy water. So maybe they're both correct. I'm assuming they're both correct then.
The core of this theoretic atom bomb would be plutonium surrounded by high explosives that would kickstart the atom-splitting chain reaction. But the element plutonium does not occur naturally and must be artificially created in a reactor, where neutrons bombard uranium to create it. This process was nearly impossible to control, so the scientists needed a moderator that would slow the neutrons down just enough to make it controllable. Such a moderator could be heavy water. Now, heavy water had a longer reactivity than normal water because of the heavy isotope deuterium attached to the hydrogen atoms. This is naturally occurring in water, but only in a tiny, tiny frequency.
See, I've heard the term. I never actually knew what it was. Maybe Kyle Hill has a video on it. That'd be interesting to learn.
But it can be artificially
Kyle Hill is like my go-to for nuclear stuff. So maybe he has a video on it.
produced through electrolysis. One facility experienced in creating heavy water was the hydro plant Vemork in the Norwegian municipality Telemark. Vemork had produced power for a factory that created artificial fertilizer and had initially had heavy water as a byproduct, but over the years had recycled the heavy water, effectively enhancing its purity to over 99%.
Oh, damn.
No one had really cared much about heavy water, though, but as it became clear that it would be essential in the atomic fission process, its value suddenly increased enormously.
How, I don't know, viscous or like water-like is heavy water? Because anytime I hear the term, I just think of like, I don't know, mineral oil, I guess? Kind of. I like, in my mind, heavy water is more thick, I guess is what you would call it.
Germany invaded Norway in 1940, but the heavy...
Like if you've ever seen Jay Schlatt's quote-unquote thick water, where he just puts thickener in a glass of water and gives it to people to drink. That's what I assume heavy water to be like. But I'm not actually sure if that's true.
water reserves were smuggled out of Norway before the Germans reached the plant, though it would produce new heavy water now for the German atomic effort. But the chief manager of the plant secretly kept British intelligence up to date about German plans. In fact, many Norwegians felt obliged to help a newly formed branch of the British government, the SOE. This was the Special Operations Executive, formed in July 1940. Its main
precursor
task
to
was to fight the German occupation in
what is
Western
it,
Europe
the
through industrial and military
MI6?
sabotage. Specialists, elite soldiers, survivalists, and secret agents would make contact with the occupied populations to find and recruit qualified volunteers to fight the Germans.
Basically the
behind
British Secret
lines.
Service, I think.
They would not just gather information, but actively kill and destroy German personnel and equipment. Preventing Germany from developing an atomic bomb was on their to-do list.
Obviously.
They would race against the bomb as hours turn to days. Time passed slow.
The production of heavy water took a lot
Great
of time
song.
and energy. To produce 1 pound took 25 tons of normal water and over
Oh.
160,000 kilowatts of energy. And it also had to be
Goddamn.
refined to a usable purity. Still, in May
a lot.
1942, Heisenberg met with the Reichskommissar for Norway and other officers to discuss how
Josef
to proceed
Turbo
with the
did.
German nuclear program. Vemork was now producing 286 pounds a month, and most German scientists agreed that they could use nuclear energy to power industrial factories to produce weapons. But to actually weaponize it was not thought possible just yet. The military officers, though, were more interested in an immediate solution, not theoretical bombs that were maybe ready in months or even years. Heisenberg knew that they had something, but he could not figure out how to bring it to life, though he secured further funding for the project and made plans to build a second hydro plant to increase the production of heavy water.
Can't allow that.
Meanwhile, the SOE were stepping up their efforts to find a way to sabotage Vemork. They acquired contacts inside the
Oh, I wonder if if he's gonna bring up the, forget what it was. Not the invasion of Norway by the British, which I can't remember if it failed. I want to say it failed, but I'm not positive. I do know that there was a special ops mission where I want to say it was SAS, not positive though, where they were dropped behind enemy lines, and I believe they were all like the 13 soldiers who were dropped behind enemy lines ended up getting captured and killed, I believe.
plant, who leaked all sorts of info, but actually sabotaging the plant was another matter. Any attempt by workers to destroy or pollute the heavy water carried the death sentence. So the SOE began recruiting
Scary.
and training a specialist force. These were mostly men from the Norwegian Special Forces or the Norwegian Army, already with experience skiing, handling explosives, and survival in winter conditions. At a school in the north of Scotland where the terrain was similar to Telemark, marksmanship, espionage, map reading, close combat, camouflage, and
Hell of a
advanced
picture.
survival techniques were taught to the recruits. But the Germans were on high alert. Repeated attacks all over Norway, sabotaging railway lines and industrial plants had made them nervous. The hydro plant was now guarded by electrified barbed wire, dogs, searchlights, and hidden machine gun posts. Well, by October 1942, a vanguard of commandos parachuted onto the Hardanger Plateau, close to the
British
lakes where the hydro plant got its water.
British commandos?
They were to make contact with the resistance and find potential landing places for gliders. On November 19th, Operation Freshman was put into action. Two
I think this is
airspeed
the one I
Horsa
was thinking
gliders
of.
pulled by Handley Page Halifax bombers made for Norway, with British paratroopers and Royal Engineers aboard. As they approached the landing area, heavy fog descended on the mountains. One of the bombers misjudged its height and smashed into the mountainside, while the glider
Oh.
crashed on the ground. The second glider missed the actual landing zone and crashed near the first plane. It was a disaster, and the few survivors in such a remote location were unable to continue the mission. All they could do was wait for the SS to appear, and the Germans had issued the commando order. Every man identified as a commando was to be interrogated and then shot. No prisoners were taken.
This is the one I was thinking of then. Operation Freshman.
Amid visions of V-2 rockets armed with nuclear warheads falling on London, the
A
SOE
real
hastily
worry.
agreed to send in the Norwegian Special Forces in Operation Gunnerside. They would parachute onto the Hardanger Plateau and ski their way to the hydro plant to destroy the heavy water stock.
God, I still find it so cool that so many Scandinavian, I was about to say Norwegian countries. No. Scandinavian countries, their military is taught to cross country ski in their and whatnot. I think that's so cool. I grew up skiing, but for whatever reason, I could never get the hang of cross country skiing. Because if you've ever done skiing before, there's some similarities, but I don't know what it was. Like, I was a really good skier and skiing since I was like 2. That's when my first lessons started. But I remembered because we had like snow sports in school where you could sign up for different sports during the winter, where it was like cross country skiing, downhill skiing, snowboarding. You had figure skating, you had hockey, you had all these kinds of things. And I remember once, because you could usually try a bunch of them and then see which one you wanted to do. I tried cross country skiing, and for what I could not stay upright. I don't know what it was. I think it was just the feeling of having the back end of my boot lift up. I could not do it.
Or the electrolytic equipment in the basement. On
I think I mentioned that before.
1943, a British Halifax flying under German radar crossed into Norway. The men successfully parachuted down, and in white camouflage, they skied toward the plant. Now, Vemork had been under lockdown since the failed Operation Freshman. German intelligence had been sweeping the countryside for potential collaborators, and additional patrols, floodlights, and anti-aircraft guns were now deployed. The direct way in, the single bridge crossing a ravine, was out of the question. There was, though, a potential weakness.
I remember
A
that
railway
bridge in the
line that
game.
brought equipment into the plant. The train passed through a gate in the fence, and because of its prohibitive location, was presumably only lightly guarded. They were also tipped that there was a secret entrance to the basement through an open cable duct. On the night of the 28th, the commandos descended the ravine, crossed the icy river, and climbed the other side in the harsh wind of Norwegian winter, reaching the railway line
so fucking
undetected.
ballsy.
There was only a pair of guards and enough cover to sneak by, the gate just a few hundred meters away. They split into 2 groups. One was the demolition team. The other would cover its advance with submachine guns and grenades if the guards were alerted. With bolt cutters, they opened their way into the compound.
Holding to serve, and they knew what to do. They were the heroes of the code.
While the demolition group made their way to the electrolytic capacitors in the basement, the
Still
other
sounds so
team
good.
took positions to engage the enemy, aiming their guns at the nearby barracks. The basement door was locked, but as promised, the cable duct was still open. 2 commandos from the demolition team crawled inside and through the tight space. After 10 minutes of crawling, they reached a hole over the basement and lowered themselves down. They quickly overwhelmed the surprised workers and locked the door. In the room with the capacitors, they planted 20 nitrocellulose charges around the
Goddamn,
equipment
20?
and ignited the fuses. They then released the workers and all dashed out through the door. The explosion that rocked the basement set fire to the building, but the heavy concrete had muffled the sound and no alarm was raised. Running through the night, they linked up
That's lucky as shit. Holy fuck. No alarm?
with the second team and made for the railway lines. As they reached the ravine, a shrill siren sound came from the compound, but luckily for the saboteurs, the floodlights could not catch them. They disappeared.
Well, it's
into
early
the
gone
night.
already. Sorry.
This ain't a book of history.
I just had a massive coughing fit.
To win the Second War.
The raid was a success, and the commandos dispersed. Alone or in small groups, they had a better chance to escape the German pursuers, and their individual escape stories are just as interesting as this story. Some hid in plain sight among the civilian population.
Smart.
Others made their way to Sweden. One guy named Hellberg had to escape James Bond style from a German ski patrol that chased him down a mountain while he fired at them with his pistol. All
Yo!
in all, the sabotage was one of the most impressive feats of the whole war, straight out of an Alistair MacLean novel. And though it did not put a stop to the German heavy water program, it did put them behind schedule. In November, the British conducted a bombing raid on Vemork that did little damage to the machinery, but that together with the Commander raid, convinced the Germans to relocate their heavy water to Germany. Norwegian spies got the time and the place of the transport, though, and on February 20th, 1944, the ferry, with the fitting name Hydro, was sunk by Norwegian saboteurs, and nearly all of the heavy water was forever lost to the Germans in the depths of Lake Tinn.
Good.
At the end of the war, a second hydro plant in Bavaria was discovered. It had produced nearly enough heavy water for an atomic bomb. If the Norwegian heavy water had reached Germany in time, Hitler might have had nuclear weapons after all.
Oh, that's a scary fucking thought. That is a very scary
Tell
thought.
us about the song, Saboteurs.
The song is actually very old, even though it was originally released on the 2010 album Coat of Arms. This song was one of the first ever written for Sabaton.
Like from the 90s and stuff, or...
Almost, but it wasn't finished. So it was only some ideas of it, and I loved the song from the beginning. It was our singer Joachim who wrote it, but he didn't get the final pieces to glue together. Originally, the song was, of course, written before we even started to talk about the topic of war.
Right.
Oh.
So it had different...
So not
Nay.
Saboteurs, no.
No, it was not Saboteurs, it was actually called Holy Lies.
But so, if it was Holy Lies way back then, before the albums and stuff, do you have like a demo version or a rough version of that?
We did a short, super crappy rehearsal recording of it, actually.
And we can hear it?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to hear it.
So let's hear it. Super crappy. That was awesome.
Shitty mic
I thought
quality.
that it fitted very
He was
well.
his voice was blown out, but you could definitely hear it. It's the same song.
And it connects to a funny thing. When we released the song, we were contacted by the Norsk Hydro,
By the plant.
by the plant. and
Oh, the
one of
plant is still running?
representative from it.
Or maybe it's like a museum now, but that's cool.
Who sent a little gift in shape of a little bottle containing water. Heavy water.
No way.
Not enough to produce a nuclear bomb, of course, but
Okay.
but if we ever want, we need a couple of more small bottles.
gotta live.
That's actually dope. They got sent heavy water? That's dope as shit.
Little heavy waters.
We were also asked by the people from Norsk Hydro to actually do a concert in the hydro plant.
Wow.
So this
Fuck
was
yeah.
something we couldn't do at the time in 2010, but we have still talked about it, and there's an option to do it in the future.
But if you did, since I
That'd be
haven't stopped, I would
dope.
totally come for that. Could I introduce you?
Sure.
That'd be fun. It's my idea. We'll see if it ever works out.
The song Saboteurs has also inspired to another thing.
What?
It inspired to the German fan club.
Right.
They are called the German Saboteurs.
Why do you suppose they chose that?
Well, I think that they refer to that they want to come and sabotage our concerts, I guess.
Aha. Wait.
Even though I don't think that they sabotage our concert, I think that they make them very rich.
Now, your
That
other
is really
different
cool.
national fan clubs and stuff, do they all have different names based on songs and stuff?
Some of them have. I mean, we do have fan clubs who are named after Wolfpack, and we have Panzer Battalions and these and Karelians.
Are the Brazilians ones like Smoking Snakes?
Of course.
Of course.
That's such a dope name.
So that was the story about Saboteurs.
But we'll see you next time on Sabaton History.
All right, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the Sabaton History channel. Check out
Already
the
done.
other channels, and also support us on Patreon because that's really what makes this happen.
Always fun to check you guys out. Go check them out. Give them their love. Like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, you guys take care of yourselves. See ya.